Hey, this is Dana, and you're listening to an exclusive CFRE interview with Story. How are you today?
I'm amazing. How are you?
Doing okay. So, Story will be releasing her full length album, The Come Up, on February 20th, and we'll be having a launch party at the Lula Lounge that night. Is that correct?
That is right.
Okay, so before we get to the album in general, for our listeners that may just be getting to know you, describe yourself as an artist, and what inspires you.
I would say I'm a multidimensional artist. I do all different types of art, and I see art as storytelling. We're always giving a perspective on the world. I see art as something that not only emulates the world and is not only a perspective of the world, but can also push culture forward. And so I take it as a huge responsibility being an artist to relay a positive message to the world.
So, as an artist that takes a lot of culture into account while creating her music, draw inspiration from multiple genres, ranging from reggae to musical theater, how do you draw inspiration from all these different things to just merge it into one sound that you can call your own?
I think it just came innately because it is my authenticity. Um, I vibrate at different rates. I've never been a person to like put myself into a box and limit my beliefs and personality. I'm always trying to grow and feel as deeply as I can in multiple dimensions. And so I think that translates into my artistry. I've lived through a lot of different types of experiences, and I have friends from all walks of life, and that translates into the different genres because each genre has its own feeling and yeah, I just go with that. I don't really limit myself.
That's really great, honestly. You don't see a lot of that nowadays, especially coming from so many different, dimensions as you were talking about before. Like, with all these different like inspirations coming at you from like all different directions and stuff like that, did you find it sort of difficult to put together not just songs individually but like a whole album with all these ideas you had?
No, not really. I think what was difficult was so I wrote like over 100 songs and I compiled them into different albums that I felt would go together into a story arc. And this one kind of just came together, like it just kind of worked out. And I think the difficult part was the production side of things because I'd never produced an album before, and I had been looking for a producer to help flesh out the music, and I didn't find anyone that was sufficient or that had the time or that was within my budget, so I decided to produce it myself, and that side of things was a little bit harder. But as far as the songwriting, songs come pretty easily to me. I
Hmm.
feel like even if I live the most boring life from here on out, I'll still have 1,001 stories to tell. So and that's what songs are. It's storytelling. So
That's really that's interesting. So, what do you say about like your new album, and what kind of story does that tell?
well, basically, the synopsis of the album, chapter three, is my debut album. So it's, people often ask me, why chapter three, and I've already written chapter one and chapter two, but the synopsis of this chapter is essentially a woman trying to leave the sex industry and get into the music industry, only to realize that both are equally misogynistic and problematic. And she tries to grapple with her relationships with her mother, her family, her career, romantic relationships, and with money. Um, yeah, so that's basically the synopsis, and it just kind of touches on all these different layers of being a dancer, of being an artist, and of being a human.
Okay, so, how do you think the album single "A Lost Find"? How do you think that speaks to the message of the entire album?
A Lost Find is a bit sad, but also a bit hopeful. If you've heard any of my love songs before, they're often quite sad, you know. They have this feeling of like I'm never going to find love type of thing. But I feel like A
Uh-huh.
Lost Find has a bit of hopefulness to it, even though it is a sad song. I
It's
used to be in that
a love
frame of
song.
mind, yeah, that I would never find love. Um, but A Lost Find is kind of, you know, finding people that may not be the right person, you know, and so it kind of being a loss in a sense. Um, but I'm finding as I get to know myself more and have more self-worth, I'm able to find the people that are truly meaningful to my life. And they're not a lost find, you know?
Talking more about the single, you self-directed the video for the single as well. What was that like important for you to ensure you got your vision across? Or like has directing things just been like an interest of yours? And like what was the experience like?
Well, to be honest, I did the music video out of necessity. I didn't really think about it too much. I wasn't thinking that I wanted to direct or anything like that when I made that video. It was my first attempt at doing a music video, and like I had written some like storyboards and stuff for some other ideas that had previously, but I never got funding for it, so I couldn't actually um, pull it off. And so, out of kind of desperation, I was like, you know what, I'm going to make this video. So, me and my buddy who wrote the song with me, Tom, he's my pianist and co-writer and co-producer on this entire album, and he acted as my cinematographer, and we were in the townships in Quebec, which is where he lives. We were writing some music, and we decided it was a lovely day and that we were going to just shoot some footage. And I started to just collect different footage, and decided on the narrative kind of as we went along. And then I went back to Toronto, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna like find somebody to help edit this. And I couldn't find anyone. And my brother said to me, hey, listen, I got Premiere Pro on my computer, which is an editing program. Why don't you just learn it and do it yourself? So I took an hour. I watched some tutorials on basic, cutting and splicing, and I edited it within a day. And it gave me a lot of confidence to like continue doing this type of stuff. So I wrote a feature length film, and then I started a pilot for a TV series, and then I decided I wanted to do a clay animation, which is coming out March 19th, and it's been running in some film festivals already. So yeah, I mean, like, it was kind of by accident, really.
Would you say like you had the same outcome when you produced your album by yourself too? Because you mentioned how you just produced it on your own. Or would you say that was a sort of different experience as when you directed the music video on your own?
I think it was a similar experience in the sense that like I didn't think I could do it, and I just did it. I just put on the hat, and out of like necessity, I just did what I needed to do, and it turned out well. Obviously not perfect, like I don't think anything any artist is ever perfect. We're always growing, but definitely great for my first attempt, and I'm very proud of it. Um,
Yeah, it came out really good.
Thank you. Thank you so much. But yeah, I think it was definitely something that uh, gave me confidence to just move forward. And I think also, as a human, we often limit our own, capabilities, and we don't realize how much we have in us until we actually do it. We're really in our heads, like,
Yeah.
and I think the key is to start before you're ready. You know what I mean?
Where can our listeners follow you on social media?
All my socials are Story Music. So Story with two R's, STORRY Music, MUSIC. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, uh, TikTok, Twitter, all that stuff under that name. And or go to my website, storywith2rsmusic.com, and sign up to my email list.
Once again, Story will be releasing her full-length album, The Come Up, on February the 20th, and will be having a launch party at the Lula Lounge that same night. This has been Dana from CFRE with local Toronto artist Story.